Call this committee meeting to order. So, as traditionally, just through matter of accounting functions, we basically help reconcile the budget during mid-year with the tax receipts and how we receive them and how it affects our budget. We have to have it passed. We have to have a balanced budget as part of our function as a board. And so this is the amendment that we do usually around this time each year.
Participant is now joining.
Oh, thank you, Siri.
Unknown.
And so this is the purpose of this amendment of budget, is to reconcile the new tax receipts that we did not know at the time we passed the budget with our current operating budget. So at this time, we'll hand off to Mr. Henson to explain the budget amendment.
Thank you, Chair Peter Players. And everyone, hopefully you have a copy in front of you that looks like this with a cover page. This was also included in the board meeting agenda packet that went out on Thursday. And so as was indicated by the chair, this is something we typically do each year to reconcile things to where they are as opposed to where they were when the budget was put together. And if you'll turn the page to the first page, which is actually a summary, I'll spend basically all of the time on the summary here. As you can see, the largest change, and this is the same as it has been for the last year or so, is our charter transfer. And just as a reminder, state law requires school districts with charter schools to share proportionately state and local revenue on a per pupil basis with charter schools. And when we were putting our budget together, we thought we were being somewhat aggressive in trying to determine or estimate what additional revenue we might receive. And in fact, we received more than that, which is a great thing. We received $84 million in additional funding with our operating budget. And again, that's a wonderful thing. Of course, as I just indicated, that needs to be shared proportionally with our charter schools. And then we also know, if you've paid any attention to the sales tax collections report, we've received 3 months worth in this fiscal year. It typically begins in September because those collections are in July. And through the first 3 months, we're averaging about $9 million per month higher than what Metro Finance projected in local option sales tax revenue. But we only have 3 months. And so what we need to do because of additional state and local revenue, we need to give our best estimate on what the additional charter school transfer will require. And our best estimate is this $8.6 million in addition to what was included in the original budget, so that we are sharing with our charter schools. And again, the largest source of that additional state and local revenue would be additional local option sales taxes. So you can see there's a little bit of an explanation there on the summary page. At the bottom, it just gets into what will happen closer to the end of the year, because when all is said and done, we will share exactly the per pupil amount with our charter schools that we receive as far as state and local revenue goes. Of course, we don't know what that state and local revenue is going to be yet. We don't know what final enrollment will be yet. So we are operating based upon the information that we currently have. And so we are, through this amendment, increasing our transfer to the charter fund by approximately $8.6 million. We're also adding a few positions that are needed. You can see those as they're indicated on the summary page. In Human Resources and General Counsel, account 1200. We're adding a manager for workplace safety as well as an analyst for e-time and compensation. These are positions that are sorely needed in our human resources area, and some of which were included in our aspirational budget that did not get funded. We've also tried to seek including these with ESSER funding. That has not been something that has been approved. And so we're requesting to add those 2 positions at mid-year here with this amendment. We're also requesting to add an administrative assistant for our new chief operating officer with this amendment. There was not and has not been that position for her, and so we wanted to include that, as well as 2 contract agents in our procurement department. This is very heavily driven by the additional funding that we have at our disposal through the end of the ESSER funding. And so we have a lot more contracts. The volume has increased significantly. We want to be able to handle those in a timely manner, particularly any of those that are for schools. And so we don't want to delay because of volume, being able to provide the goods and services, et cetera, for our school district as well as for our schools. And so we're requesting 2 contract agent positions. Again, these have been requested as part of the ESSER funding, wasn't something that was approved, so we're requesting that approval here. Additionally, adding a director for elementary and middle school athletics. That's a position that's being added here to our operating budget, as well as some money for textbooks. If you remember, we zeroed out our textbooks account within the current year budget with the understanding that ESSER funding would be used for textbook purchases, and it has. There are some textbooks that just don't qualify through ESSER funding, and so we're using our best estimate of what we think we will spend in textbooks that we will not be able to use ESSER funding for this fiscal year at an additional at $800,000. And so that's the only amount that will be in that textbook line item in our operating budget after this amendment. We also are including the 196 positions that are our school-based substitutes. These are general school assistants that schools are able to fill to provide a school-based substitute at their location, funded by the existing substitute budget, so you won't see an increase in dollars. We're just adding the positions, the FTEs, in this budget amendment. And then at the bottom of the page, you can see, how are we funding this? Well, first, fortunately, we have a new state grant that can cover all of our nursing services that are currently provided by the Metro Public Health Department, about approximately $5 million. That ELC grant can cover what was formerly budgeted in our operating budget. And then, as you know, we have vacancies throughout the organization, and so we, through various accounts, we have looked to see where those vacancies are, where we can pull funding to be able to offset the increases. We have told departments, please do not quit trying to fill the positions. We want you to fill the positions, but what we know so far through half of the fiscal year, we are able to reduce the operating budget some because of those vacancies. And so what this does is it does not require any additional funding. It doesn't require to go to the Metro Council because we're not requesting any additional funding. We're just moving funding around through the operating budget. The last item is a true-up for all of our student-based budgeting accounts at the school level. We're showing the reduced FTEs because of the enrollment that came in below projections, and so reducing the FTEs through our student-based budget accounts, and that's 178.1 positions that we're reducing. And so you can see at the bottom of the page, the total dollar amount is the same as at the top part of the page because we're not requesting any new funding, any additional funding. We're just moving funds through this budget amendment so that we are operating as close to where we currently are as possible. The next page I'll point out will be our charter schools page. And you can see what the new per pupil amount that's been amended, $13,489. That would be our best estimate of state and local revenue per pupil. And then you can see the increase of approximately $8.6 million at the bottom, which takes our total charter transfer to a little over $174 million. So I'll stop there. Well, actually, I'll indicate that we do include the 26-page detailed line item budget for you. I'm not going to go through this unless you have specific questions. Any changes would be reflected in columns E and F, proposed position changes and proposed budget changes. And hopefully with any changes, we've got some remarks over on the right side that will explain those. But we have included all of the significant changes in the summary page on that first page. So Chair Player Peters, I'll stop there and see if there are questions. Unless Dr. Bowden would like to add anything.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Ms. Tyler, then Ms. Masters.
I'll kind of start at the bottom, work my way up. I'm looking at the vacancies throughout the organization. So these are, to be completely clear, these are the teacher, bus drivers, parapros that we cannot fill, correct?
These are positions that are outside of the student-based budgeting accounts. We're not reducing any of those, but these would be those areas, some of those areas that you mentioned where we have had vacancies throughout the first half of the fiscal year. So we're going ahead and reflecting that reduction here. We're not reducing any of the positions, just the dollars associated.
Okay, but we're reallocating that, I mean, with the hope that we can eventually fill them. But in the meantime, you're wanting to reallocate those to these top section, correct?
Correct. We would have to offset the additional $8.6 million that's going to the charter fund, and this would be one way to do that, yes.
Okay, because I'm just looking and seeing that we're adding some administrative assistants and HR and procurement and chief of academics, and it just looks like we're adding a bunch of stuff to central office, but our teachers and our bus drivers who are bearing the brunt of the problem of not having enough teachers and not having enough bus drivers, I don't see a line item where we could be giving them anything to help for that.
I'll let Dr. Battle speak. Of course, we are providing the school-based substitutes that we've not provided in the past, but I'll let Dr. Battle speak to it.
Yeah, I think two things that I will point out. This does not impact our school budgets at all. So it does not impact our teacher vacancies or any positions associated with that, certificated or support. So we've been able to, once again, keep whole our school-based budgets. Where you see the 196 additional FTEs, those are all direct positions into schools. So those are, again, funded. 2313, those are all school-based positions that are funded through the support hub. So just for clarity there. The additional FTEs that you see there, as Chris mentioned, several of them are a result of the management of our ESSER funds. And so in essence, and I forget what that line item is called, the administrative amount that we hold back from our grant funds.
Oh, indirect costs.
Indirect costs,
Yeah.
Thank you. We're able to share the majority of that up with the indirect costs associated with the management of the grant itself.
Okay.
And also want to make note, like when we also have savings through vacancies, it's like if you pay a staff person 50 grand, you're not paying 50 grand right at the top at the August year.
Yes, I understand
And,
that.
and also do it for the viewing audience. I was like, what's their name? Viewing audience. So if someone be hired January 1st, they're using the salary from $25,000. So you still have that $25,000 savings as we're still hiring. So I also want people to understand that the savings are coming as we're kind of filled. You're also saving that salary amount that's not being paid out because you don't pay someone's salary total at the first of the year.
Which is also not being reduced.
Yes, it's
So we
also-
still
yes.
have
I
the
don't want to
ability
suggest that.
to hire those positions, and we will actively continue to recruit positions like our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, paraprofessionals. Those positions still exist within our budget and will be funded accordingly when those hires are made.
Yeah, I think that with the lack of incentive to jump in and teach and be a bus driver right now because of all the circumstances surrounding school and the pandemic and everything else, I really would want to see some of that money that we're saving from the front end of not having to have paid somebody, so we're not losing that money, but I would love to see that go to the people who have stuck with us and have borne the brunt of the problem. The teachers who have had to stay late because there weren't enough bus drivers to get the kids where they needed to go. The parapros that have had to do double duty. The people that have been overworked and exhausted. I know we gave them a bonus last year. It was very well deserved and it was very well appreciated so much. I would love to see us do a little bit more.
Ms. Masters?
Yeah. So I have a question about, so if we're adding a director of elementary and middle school athletics, we recently added a high school director of athletics, and the existing athletics director became the director of elementary and middle school athletics. So I'm just wondering, why it's presented here as though the new position is the elementary and middle school position.
We previously had one athletic director that covered all areas of athletics, and as you indicated, we recently hired a new director of high school athletics, and the existing athletic director became the elementary and middle school athletics. We were hopeful that that would be approved through our ESSER application, but it was not approved, and so therefore we're adding it here to the operating budget.
But the new position is the high school person. I mean, well, in essence, they're both new positions.
The
because-
high school, the athletic director position existed prior to this budget cycle and ESSER. And so you got to think not in terms of people, but in role. And so what we then added in essence was the elementary and middle school position because that did not exist. Our goal here is when you're thinking about the SEL and academic needs of our students and the re-engagement after the pandemic is kind of creating that pipeline of opportunities for our students, not just in the high school, not some just in the middle school, but how can we continue to pour into our students, getting them connected, helping them thrive both social, emotionally, and academically as early as the elementary school. So when you think in terms of role and not in terms of people, we're actually adding the middle school and elementary focus, if that helps, Ms. Masters.
Yeah, and of course, when I'm thinking in terms of people, I'm thinking, if we don't approve this, who does or doesn't stay in that role? Okay. And same question. Well, I mean, I guess I'm kind of I'm looking at it, I don't want to nitpick it and say we don't need these, administrative level positions, certainly. And, I mean, as the mother of a middle schooler myself, I could certainly see the benefit of having the separation of the different directors of athletics, but I am looking at it as the reason for the existing funds that we have, which I understand we have to find a way to fund this charter school overage, but the reason for it is that we don't have all the bus drivers that we need, that we don't have all the teachers that we need, and just sort of to echo what Ms. Tyler is saying about whether or not we could find a way to use some of these funds to compensate, to thank those who are sticking around, even in light of, what I think the last article I saw was that nationwide, we have about a 20% bus driver vacancy rate. So, this is not a uniquely Nashville problem at all, but so just throwing that into the conversation as well.
Yeah, and just to add some more detail here, Chris, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Melissa Roberge to come up and specifically talk about the manager workplace and safety role, which we've seen an increase need for, as well as the e-time and compensation. I also want to reflect us back on previous operating budgets where the last several years we have consistently kind of cut and trimmed here at the Support Hub. We've always prioritized maintaining our school-based budgets. We have not and do not intend to cut any other budgets when it comes to transportation and the other needs that we have as a district. So I want to be clear about that. But when you're talking about an infusion of funds like we have received, there is management of those funds, and there's an increased need and kind of expedited need when it comes to meeting the needs of our students. And so we want to make sure that operationally we're able to meet that need as well. But Melissa Roberge, if you don't mind approaching the podium and speaking more specifically about the manager workplace safety analyst and e-time and compensation roles.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. And as the chief of HR, the conversation about what can we do for our teachers, for our bus drivers, is a conversation we're having on a regular basis. I've requested these two positions because there is a machine that works behind the teachers and the bus drivers, and part of that machine is our analyst for e-comp and compensation, and those are the people that literally make sure the paychecks go out They process $26 million worth of payroll, review hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and are working 14 to 16 hours a day right now. And one of the reasons they're doing that and what their jobs help them do is process things like the bus driver bonus that we just did. If I can share a quick story, when we were first talking about it, can we do this bonus from November 12th through December 16th and pay it out by Christmas? I didn't know the answer to that question, and I'm not doing that work, but the people in the e-comp office are. And they are working overtime to make sure that the bus drivers and the teachers are supported and are getting their paychecks. So that's one of the reasons I've asked for that position, to give them some additional help with the coordinator of workplace safety. Currently, there's a single individual who goes out and performs OSHA inspections for our different schools. There's been different issues that I know the board has been involved in, and Harold Finch is our one guy who goes out there, and because those issues are important to our teachers and help improve teacher morale when they're addressed timely, an additional person will hopefully improve the teaching experience for them.
And I'll also add, we're talking about one source of funds right now in our operating budget, and I know we keep throwing out there, what are we doing in some of the other spaces? That's where you will see that represented, particularly because of the types of funds that we're talking about. So as the board has previously been briefed on, there are some specific actions and supports getting ready to be rolled out for our transportation department. So we are leveraging, we're trying to be very strategic and mindful about which funds we're leveraging for which investments, so that we can maintain these investments and supports over time, but also get at the need. So, and I'll kind of reference this, and Karen Randolph talks about this best, the do now and building towards. And we're trying to be very mindful of that, but some of those same kind of strategies and incentives that we're talking about now, because they're not represented here doesn't mean they're not represented in our ESSER budget. We're going to talk a little bit about that later in the board meeting as well.
All right. Yeah. Okay, Ms. Buggs, Ms. Alrod.
Thank you.
Ms. Bush, Ms. Tyler.
And then I had a question about the dollar amounts that we see. Are these only salary, or does that include the benefits package also?
It's total cost of the position, so it's salary plus all benefits.
So it's not like I could look at this and say, all right, $170,000 split between two people, that person is making $85,000 a year. It's like they're making a lot less than that, but they're getting benefits to support other needs, like health care, and et cetera.
Correct.
Okay, so I appreciate that. And I do want to say, I had a great conversation. I've had a great couple of conversations the last maybe 3 or 4 days with some teachers at Ida B. Wells and some different support staff across the district. And I certainly don't want to minimize that educators deserve more pay. Like, they certainly do. I think just about anyone with a full-time job, we all are asking for more money. Just, we can have another conversation about the greed of decision makers in corporate America, right? But educators deserve more pay, but they also are saying that they're burnt out because they need more people supporting them. And so I remember being a teacher and thinking, I don't know what central office is doing. What are they doing with all that money? And then over the last 6 years, I've seen us cut IT, cut HR, just cut all the people that were going into schools to not just check in on teachers and watch them, but to actually model for them and to act as numeracy coaches or as literacy specialists and all these different things that, we just have not had historically. So I think it's great that we have this kind of conversation, especially on the board floor. And it's good for us to have that conversation with educators directly and say, look, we are trying our best to offer you all different types of supports. Support does often, we look at support often as funding, like giving you money directly in a paycheck, but resources and support can also come in the form of another certificated person being there to help, another support hub person being there to offer suggestions to relieve you so you can go to the restroom. Just all the different things that our support hub staff do, especially considering that last year, every support hub staff went into schools at least once a week, And so I think it's good for us to continue to kind of elevate those things and not make teachers feel separated from the other educators, not feel separated from maintenance or not feel separated from support staff or feel separated from the support hub, but say that all of our educators deserve more. We're all burnt out for a number of reasons, but we are white-knuckling it to the end of the year until we can try to make the powers that be believe that we need more funding in this formula. Again, another selfish plug for the BEP funding formula, us all being accountable for, advocating and making sure that the people that need to hear it understand what we're saying when we say we need more funding.
Ms. Alrod? Ms. Bush?
Thank you. My first question is can you tell us which ones of these positions, I understand it's 2050 and 2180 if we're looking at account numbers. Can you tell me what other of these positions are on here because they were not approved through our ESSER funds?
Go ahead,
Can you
Chris.
remind me of that, please?
Because I know the combination of ESSER funds and/or the aspirational budget that did not get funded last year, so it's a combination of the two.
Okay.
But as far as specifically the ESSER funds, it's the Director for Elementary and Middle School Athletics. I know that Carrie had conversations with the Tennessee Department of Education about, for instance, the two positions in procurement. And that was not something that they said they were going to approve. And so I'm not sure about the HR positions. Those may have been, I think those were actually in our aspirational budget. And there were a lot more
That's
than
correct.
a lot more than two FTEs that were included in the aspirational budget for human resources. But that's where those two came from.
Okay. I remember us talking about, particularly within our ESSER asks, talking about the procurement contract agents because it is such an influx of funds, that we wanted to have better oversight of those funds and, of course, the procurement and the processes behind those. Are these contract agents also doing any auditing, or are we going to be adding any auditing powers to any of these staff or any additional other staff?
These are mainly just to deal with the volume of contracts that are coming from schools and departments, et cetera, with the influx of the ESSER, the federal ESSER funding. So these aren't necessarily auditors. We actually are just finishing up an audit with Metro internal audit for our procurement area. And so we have a number of audits that go on throughout the year, but neither of these positions would necessarily be auditing. They're actually just dealing with the volume of the contract requests.
But a great question, and it's difficult to talk about these budgets in isolation because we build them across funding sources. But Dr. Randolph, could you approach the podium and talk a little bit about how we're shoring this up, particularly in the federal programs office, with
Sure.
regards to auditing?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Battle. So thank you for the question. We have added 4 positions to the federal programs team to work with ESSER. The kind of difference is that those are more along the lines what I think you may be asking about. It's about documentation, requisitioning, making sure we have, I call it like soup to nuts on every purchase, which is what we have to submit for reimbursement. So we have 3 ESSER specialists and 1 ESSER grant manager that we're about to bring on. That's what they do. So a lot of the auditing of documentation and stuff, they are managing those processes. In our internal compliance team supports them in federal programs. That's all.
Thank you. I wanted to see kind of what the difference was between those positions, as I know we've discussed a couple different people being added to those teams. My next question is on the school-based substitutes, which is account number 2313. I just want to make sure that I'm clear, and I guess we're all clear, that these are the school-based substitutes that were already approved and we've discussed many months ago. They're not a second school-based substitute. It's the singular one that we've already discussed.
That's correct.
That's correct. They were just not included in the budget the board approved back in the summer. And so to get the full-time equivalent positions included in the budget, we've added them here but not added any dollars since they're being funded by the current substitute budget.
And just a little bit more context here. Again, the question is often asked, well, what are we doing with those funds? We've launched a new innovative strategy to allow for permanent substitutes in our schools based upon the size of the school for several reasons. It helps with consistency of operations, building relationships with students, and the instructional delivery, along with being an additional mitigation strategy that we've been able to leverage in our schools with regards to COVID, because now our substitutes have consistency in their sites that they report to daily. This brings them on as, again, feedback from our stakeholders, our principals and the teachers, brings them on as full-time through the end of the year with additional benefits, because there is risk associated with the role and serving in multiple capacities throughout the day. So again, with innovation, we've kind of repurposed a bit of our substitute budget to make sure that we have more stable supports in our schools.
I think the school-based substitutes are a good idea, not just for us to have now in the
current pandemic world, but also going forward, I think it's a wise idea for nothing else, just the school community in general. I think it's wise. To some of my colleagues' points, we do hear so much about the lack of supports within our schools. Our teachers are aware that they received a pay increase last year. Pay increases typically are to have someone stay and retain. But of course, we want our teachers to not get to the point where they're considering a retention strategy of what is it the money that I'm staying for, because that will never be enough, to be quite frank. So I know that we need to increase our services to them, and we have gone through historic years of, we're not just cutting down the fat of our budget, we're cutting down to the bone, if not to the marrow of the bone to so many years. So my concerns are probably echoed by some of my colleagues of, I recognize that these are needed positions. I understand that we have not funded them for so many years, and I see their value. My concern is that even with our school-based substitutes that we currently have, which again, I think is a good idea and we need to continue, I know that we are still needing additional substitutes, and we're needing all these additional other people inside of our schools. So I would have liked to have seen something specific to that, but I do recognize that I'm seeing it here. It's just, it sounds like we need even more than what's here.
Yeah, and
so I hope that we, no, that's okay. So I'm hoping that we continue to see additional, as we have those additional tax funds, we continue to see that $900 a month extra trend. And then, of course, in our operating budget, if we can continue to see additional in the school supports that people are more visible to, I think it would be helpful.
No, absolutely. And again, I think that's the challenge of taking these budgets one at a time. Again, if our ESSER budget was just approved on November 29th. So we're able to now move on some of the strategies that were within there. We are having to balance out what's approvable in ESSER versus what's on our operational budget. So you see an investment here around school-based substitutes. What you will see in ESSER, we're fortunate to get our advocacy coaches in our operational budget. We are now expanding restorative practice assistants in our middle schools and high schools. You will see an expansion of community achieves in many of our schools. So you will see some of those additional roles that we're speaking of within our ESSER budget. You will also, if you recall, we chose to spiral a great deal of funds directly to our schools for them to make those decisions. There are some roles that we can agree should exist in every school. There are also school-specific roles that schools need to have the opportunity to post for, to hire, to coach, and retain. And so we've given a lot of flexibility with some guardrails to our schools around those specific roles as well. So while we're making some decisions based upon needs and challenges we see across schools, across the district, we've empowered our school teams, our school leaders to make some of those more unique decisions around the specific needs in their schools. So you will see some of those positions within their SBB budget connected to ESSER, since we've spiraled about $24 million down directly or over directly to our schools. So you will see them in various places. The challenge here, though, is what we're seeing across all industries, right? So we have 196 FTEs. We have positions we can still hire for. And so this is not necessarily a conversation of needing more. This is a conversation of meeting the demand of what we need. So if we were up against a situation of needing more, then different decisions would be made. But right now, and we've gotten positive feedback from our school teams, the way we've been able to create a ratio is based upon the number of students being served. And so what a large high school is allocated through the school-based substitute is different from a smaller elementary school. So we're trying to make sure that we're able to meet that ratio need and provide that consistent support in our schools. The challenge more today, I think we have the capacity to build upon the needs of the schools. The challenge is just meeting that demand in the workforce. And so we'll continue to think about that, but we also, as was previously mentioned, need to continue to think about those retention strategies that we've talked about so frequently.
I'm sorry, but can I clarify? So in layman's terms, you mean meeting the demand, there's literally not people to fill the roles that we have already. So it's not a matter of trying to add new roles because people won't apply to. I got you. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Ms. Bush?
Oh, yeah. So when I see these type of salaries in central office, it makes me really nervous. I'm uneasy about these salaries because we have our parapros, our bus drivers, and our substitutes that are underpaid. And it really stresses me out to keep seeing these high-paid salaries on the central office level. Not being towards you or anything, I'm just making a comment. So with our parapros, I hear them all the time coming. I hear, that our substitute teachers, we can't get people to come because we're not paying. So my question is, on substitutes, how much are we paying them? What is the max that we pay our substitutes? Or what is the average? Or what is the starting salary for a substitute?
So the salary rate for a substitute varies based on level of experience. So to be a substitute, you must have 60 hours of college credit. And I believe, I don't have the pinpoint rate, but it ranges from $13.85 to almost $16 an hour.
And that's absent the school-based substitute
Correct.
positions. So,
Yes.
In the school-based substitute positions, what they're guaranteed, or they're treated like a full-time employee within the district with benefits, with leave time, so on and so forth. So that's one way that we've been able to address kind of pay and also supports for our substitute teachers.
So really, that's still not enough. Then we have our parapros. They're constantly complaining about what is the minimum amount, or tell me kind of an average on what we're paying our parapros.
And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe a couple of years ago, we actually moved the parapro pay scale. So it was last year, we moved them up a pay scale. I don't know off the top of my head the pay rate for parapros, but we are doing the pay study that's looking across the district and then benchmarking it against not only other school districts, but also other skilled care facilities to really look at where our pay is and where it needs to be.
So with this pay scale, how much time do you all need to study this pay scale across the district?
So again, I want to remind us with the pay study that's been commissioned, it's been commissioned through the mayor's office, who are in partnership with Nashville Public Education Foundation. If we recall back to our plan, we talked about this at the last board meeting. We got about a year's late start with our teacher compensation plan. It was a 2-year process for the teacher compensation plan, which is one role, one job description. We also know that happened during the middle of the pandemic and through a budget crisis. So while we don't have a specific timeline for the support pay plan, we know that we are going to be doing a market analysis across about 600 different roles, which is very complex. And so we want to do this well and to get a study that will reflect the value of our employees. At the same time, as we're working through that pay study, we'll be bringing recommendations to the board through our aspirational budget process around things that we can be doing to move our pay scales to the places that are more suitable for the work and valuing our employees. So that is already in progress with regards to that pay study, but as far as an exact timeline, I think it's difficult to determine at this moment.
Thank you for that. The only thing I worry about is, thank you for the answer, is that if we continue to take this much time, or, we don't know, we're going to constantly keep losing good people because they can go somewhere else really easily because they've been begging and asking and asking and asking. And when we see salaries like this versus what they're asking for, they can see instant amount of money here versus I've been waiting 2 years, or I've been waiting this amount of time. I have been begging to get a pay increase. And so I just kind of worry, and I just want us to understand that we have to be really cautious when we continue to hire higher paid positions or salaries in the central office. When they are just out there asking and begging, they love what they do and they want to stay with us, but they're starting to leave us. And we're starting to really have a high number of vacancies because they can go elsewhere. They can go across the county line to get paid even more. So we're losing a lot of good people. When it comes to the bus drivers, what type of bonus did they get?
So there are 2 current bonuses in effect. The first is a $300 attendance bonus that has been in effect for a while from November 12th through December 16th. There was a $1,000 attendance bonus. So if you were have perfect attendance during that time, it's an extra $1,000, and that'll be paid out on the December 21st paycheck.
Is that a one-time bonus?
It is a one-time attendance bonus. There are other bonuses that are going to be coming. The attendance bonus will continue.
My last question, how are we getting this money to give them bonuses? Where's this money coming from?
It's my understanding it was also coming from the vacancies.
Yeah, there's some in operating budget, but we also budgeted in our ESSER funds to leverage some incentives for our employees. And I also want to point out that, pay is, it matters. We want to definitely value our employees, but what they're telling us is that it's not just pay. So we're also trying to get at some of the other conditions that help support our employees for, them to be able to perform at a high level on a daily basis. So we definitely hear and echo the need around pay, which we're trying to address through our pay studies and some of the incentives that you will see through our ESSER budget, but we also have to improve conditions along the way that help support our employees on a daily basis.
Thank you. Ms. Gentry, Dr. Gentry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for that echo. I would just say that, number one, I think the concerns and the passion around having the work done to do the compensation study for our parapros, bus drivers, et cetera, is important. And I believe, Madam Chair, you mentioned having a session to sort of start to talk through that and provide an update to the board. And that should be coming at some point in time. Is that correct?
Yes, probably after the new year.
Okay, so I just want to keep in mind that it's something that is on everybody's radar. The other thing I would ask us to do is to not do the comparisons of roles that we're asking for and compensation that we're asking for and comparing them to other positions that may not be getting increases at this moment. We can't elevate one by devaluing the other. Distinct skill sets, different needs, and different sources of funding to be able to do that compensation at this time and to fill those roles at this time. I don't know that we do anyone a service by saying one over versus the other. They're both, all of them are needs that we have, and I would just caution us to not discuss them as a comparison of, filling one role versus providing additional compensation for another. It doesn't create, we talk about morale, that doesn't create a good working relationship and a good environment for anybody when we contextualize it in that way. Definitely important, but I think all the roles that we're asking for, I think our staff has been very thoughtful in identifying the needs and the resources needed to support not only our staff, but our students and outcomes as well. So again, I would just caution us to keep the conversation separate. One role does not bring more or less value to the goals that we're trying to achieve than the other.
Okay, I want to do a time check. We are 17 minutes over time, and we still have 2 more committees left. So I know there was other questions, but I'm already eating into Ms. Tyler's committee, and then.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget amendment.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second. I'd like to have a quick discussion, real quick, just a quick point. Also, too, I understand the sentiment, as my former career role is too, but also the amount that we're even approving or shifting we make sure we don't give a token amount when we're talking about giving extra funds. I've been in situations where if we took the amount that we have right now and we would spread that to support staff or to everything, by the time you take out taxes, it'll barely be $5 worth of a bonus, like what we're doing with right now, if pennies on the dollar. So also be mindful of the scale of the amount that we're doing due to the volume of employees we have. That it takes substantive amount of revenue influx to really do something meaningful, that it's not insulting at the end of the day of what we give our employees. We need to give our employees more money. I think that's a sentiment that we have to do. But also when we're talking about bringing funds, to do the salary shift we did for the teachers, remember, it cost $86 million. It was $80 million for revenue that we had to work with the mayor to give. We are shifting less than $9 million. That's not even barely a tenth of what was approved.
Really, $1 million, because that $8 million from the charter office, for charter schools, we don't have any control over. So $1 million.
$1 million, yes, correct. So so I also want to put in perspective the scale of money that we are dealing with, and that I think everyone is sentiment more, we want to give more money to employees, but also we do it in a meaningful way. It's also not an insult that time they actually get something, it's less than a couple of dollars, and they're like, well, you might as well save it because it wasn't worth the time to process. So I'd also be mindful of our intent, that we do it and that we're very thoughtful with it. Okay, all in favor of the budget amendment? Well, okay, I'm that one. Who are you saying again? It's five. Okay. Any against?
No, it was 4. 1, 2, 3.
I just have a question.
Okay.
In this amendment, can we not, is it all for one, or can we pull out in some of this stuff in this budget? That's my question.
We have to have a balanced budget. So if you pull something out for one, it has to make sure it has to be balanced with something else. So you just can't pull.
I'm just not comfortable with these salaries for central office. Everything else I'm fine with, so that's why I was asking the question.
Okay, yeah, we have to have a balanced budget at the end. So if you, it has to be balanced.
I'm not, I would be okay voting yes for it. It's just that this is sort of one of our rare opportunities to ask questions about the budget other than through the budgeting process. So I guess that's why I'm feeling some frustration that we're being cut off at this point when we were sort of.
Sorry, I was just under the assumption.
Okay. Well,
Can we defer?
what would be the implications of deferring if that was if we wait until 90? Okay.
We typically, obviously, use the amended budget as the baseline for moving forward to creating the next year's budget, fiscal year 22-23 budget. And so we would not have the amended budget as the baseline as we build upon it. That would be the downside.
And for many of these, a delay in services. So the two, we've already started entering the process of building the next operating budget, but we will be doing so blind without a balanced budget.
Ms. Walker.
I just want to remind us that it's not our job to decide what salaries we set. We don't get to decide who gets paid what. That's the job of Dr. Battle and her team.
Well, I'm not comfortable with, it doesn't matter what they decide. That's why we're a board. We can vote on what we decide to do, right? So my question is, or my statement is that I'm not comfortable with these salaries. They're on this piece of paper, which means it's a part of the budget. So we can vote on whatever we want to in the budget, and that is our job. So I'm uncomfortable with these salaries. That's what I'm saying. Everything else I'm fine with. If I need to abstain, that's fine. I'm just trying to get an understanding of what the options are.
So, yeah, the options are to approve the amendment, to deny the amendment, or to abstain. Yeah. Can I ask another question? Sure.
Is there any way for you to break down for us if someone wanted to know what the exact salary of someone is? Because again, what's listed here isn't the salary, it's the benefits too. So it's the health care, it's everything else that gets pulled out even before taxes.
Correct. It's Social Security, Medicare, all insurance, all pension, all of that is added on top of the salary amount.
Which is approximately what percentage, Chris?
It's usually around 30%.
Right, okay. So if I needed to guesstimate for the human resources and general counsel, manager workplace, that two-person chunk, split that between $170,000, that's $85,000, and then I would take 30% of that, and that's what that person would be making?
That's the estimate. Of course, we don't know exactly what these people, all of them are going to come in as far as what their step would be based upon their experience. So these are basically our best estimates of where they would come in on the pay scale.
So, but that would be a good calculation for someone that just wanted to kind of calculate what a salary would be. So like these two people would be making about $58,000 to $60,000. Again, this is just my quick calculation, roundabout. So I think, again, it's just good for us to have these conversations so that everybody understands. So I understand that this is not a salary. So like even this administrative assistant with the $65,000 that's listed here would be making about $45,000. And, and first-year teachers make about, $45,000 themselves. So, I mean, I think it's just good for us to be able to articulate that for sure, that these listed here are not salaries. This is a whole benefits package, and so the salaries are 30% less than whatever that is.
On average.
Thank you for that. Roughly, it's not in stone.
No, I appreciate that. The only thing that I'll say to that and like I said, I appreciate it, is that these salaries, they don't have to take benefits. Their spouse can have insurance. This could be a full salary, right? So these are options. So when you sign up for benefits, that's an option, right? Is it mandatory that you have to take healthcare?
I don't think you can trade out though.
Yeah.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question.
It's
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
you get the money
Yeah,
back.
I'm just
No.
asking.
It's not like you
Just give
get
me the
that.
money?
No. I'm saying with these salaries, I'm just trying to understand. If I got paid the $128,000 and my spouse has insurance, I can elect not to get insurance through Metro, right? So whatever you're trying to offer me, it can adjust because I may not need insurance.
We don't negotiate on salary that way.
So they have to take the MNPS insurance.
They are not required to take MNPS insurance, but and hopefully I'm not stepping too far into Chris's lane here, but we don't budget on the assumption that they would not take our benefits. We budget on the assumption that they would take our benefits.
But they do not have to take the benefits. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct, but they would not receive the additional funds as compensation, if that
So
makes
the
sense.
128, if they didn't take the insurance, or they did take the insurance, this is the whole 128?
That's
Yes.
correct,
So if they didn't take the insurance, does it decrease?
yes.
How much?
About 30%, approximately 30%.
So
So that's $89,000. So it'd
I'm
be
still not comfortable with it because it's really hard for me to approve a budget that has these salaries in it when my parapros are not being paid to this amount, or my substitute. So it's just hard for me because I look at that as I gotta support the support staff. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay, you guys,
But we can go. Let's go.
Yeah,
Well, I was just going to say with our hourly employees, that hourly rate, does that include benefits or do they get benefits on top of that hourly rate?
When we're talking hourly rate, benefits would be on top of the hourly rate.
Okay, so there is a little,
When we're talking a teacher
So that
salary,
helps a little
benefits
bit.
would be on top of the teacher salary that you see in the salary schedule.
gotcha.
all right, there is a motion on the floor. If you're not in favor of the amendment, you can vote against it. If you are in favor, you can vote for it, or you have the option to abstain. So the motion on the floor is to approve the proposed amendment 1 for the fiscal 21-22 operating budget. All in favor? 1, 2, 5. Okay, all opposed? Any abstentions? 2. Okay, the budget amendment passes. Thank you. I understand the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Henson, for fielding the questions. And we'll work at a further day to have a more thoughtful conversation with some of these budgets and really get into the details. I apologize to my fellow committee chairs for only having 4 minutes for the capital improvement budget and everything else for this discussion. All right, it's adjourned.
All right, can I go ahead and call us to order for council?